It's just daft how you got like the Premier League players all coming on and like they're just promoting them, but they're going to go back to playing football next week. And then yeah, what they're going to do then? But hey,
It's actually funny because Brandon and Richard Buckley were in before, and obviously we asked that question to them, and they were saying it's probably due to like some sort of like licensing or continuity thing, because if EA basically say that it's suspended, but then pros are still like being like in licensed EA events, they're like people like, huh? So is it suspended? Is it not? Kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, it should be. It should just carry on, or at least it's not going to carry on. There needs to be updates, because they just left everyone in the dark about it. But then gone, oh, here's the Premier League Invitational.
Exactly.
So they give the exact same. They didn't give it. If they didn't call it Premier League Invitational and just said it was like a league, right?
Yeah.
People won't complain about it because it's just, oh, it's something to watch. But they've called it the Premier League, but the actual Premier League isn't happening. So it's just a bit stupid, really.
Oh, it's nuts. It's absolute. It's ridiculous. And the problem you've got some of these guys have put in thousands of pounds into their account on the back of that they might make the finals and actually make some half decent money back if they do really, really well. And then it's just been taken away. At the moment, there's so much uncertainty in there. So
yeah,
it's just they're not going to get a refund on the FIFA points, are they? So
no,
something needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, I can just tell we're going for a really good episode.
yeah.
I like it.
I'll be honest with you, boys. I don't beat around the bush here.
No. This is our platform.
Yeah.
This is our platform, isn't it? This is literally as real as you want to be. Like, as long as we're just not saying FEA or SCA.
No, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Keep it constructed, but as real as open as you want.
So
go ahead, mate.
Zippy, congratulations on the contract, by the way, mate. I don't know who it's with, but yeah, congratulations.
All will be revealed soon.
All right. I think I've got the hint there, but I'll say no more.
It's not us, as far as I know.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, on time. We're on time. Just wait for people to get in it, then we'll get going.
Lovely. That was a straight. You put the post up.
Yeah.
There's a couple of my guys on the stream as well that want to listen in, so.
Exactly, that's what we need as well, because obviously we're gonna talk about some of your restaurants, stuff like that, which is important.
Welcome in, Luke. How's it going? Evening, Ben.
DS, yeah, he should be on his way in a minute.
Probably.
Awesome.
Yeah, DS.
Cam, how's it going? Welcome in.
Welcome. Oh. Yo, mate, how's it going? Welcome everyone. Squire 7, welcome. What are you saying?
I like the graphic as well.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Looking decent. Hello, Hammond, how's it going? Welcome to the stream.
Oh, Hammond's listening, is he?
Hammond is indeed, and Cameron as well.
Yeah, we've got an inter-team pro clubs friendly tomorrow night. That should be fun.
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah. Are you streaming that?
Yeah, I'll be streaming it on Facebook tomorrow night. So
awesome.
Should be fun. I think we're booked in for about 5ish. I think 5 o'clock at night.
5.
So it should be quite early, I think. But I think best of 3. The losers don't get signed for next year.
Savage.
So
no pressure.
A lot of stake.
Yeah.
Yo, Kai, DS, how's it going, guys? Welcome.
Evening, DS. How you doing, bro?
Which DS is that? Is that Daniel Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know DS. Yeah. I know all about him.
Yeah, Ziffy, when you're ready, just go ahead, bro.
Okay. Right, so Callum, welcome.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Basically, what this is going to be about is just how sort of you got into esports, your thoughts on it, and obviously what goes through like the processes of signing a player and watching a player, stuff like that, like, and the decisions that you've got to make. So yeah, just to start, tell us how you sort of got into it and how serious about FIFA actually came about.
Well, yeah, some say we're serious. Well, in all honesty, like, I'll be honest with you guys here, it's a hobby that's got a little bit out of hand.
I'd love to to explain that. Yeah.
My wife hates what we do. All right, she's fucking livid. But I started serious about FIFA. It's about 2 and a bit years ago now, and I started by writing. And it sounds sad. I started it by writing player reviews up. So a little bit like what Marshall does on video, but just like written text form. And looking back, proper sad. But you know, it built up a bit of a following on Facebook. What then happened was we set up a Facebook group, which is where, you know, I met quite a few of my good friends, you know, that I've built up today, and some of the mods and admins in the group. We built up a group. We've got 50,000 members in there now. And what we did at that point, though, is we set up something called SIP, which is basically an investment trading platform. So you guys probably heard of some of the big traders, Donk,
Yeah.
so the others with their big patrons and stuff. So we instead of calling ours Patreon, we call ours SIP, which is the same thing what they do, but we run the biggest one of those in the world. But what we do that's slightly different is we take the money that we make from it and we use that to fund the esports side of things. So our first ever player that we signed was a guy called Tonesy 2 years ago. Swedish chap. Brilliant at weekend league. He did fuck all else. I'll be honest about it. But we sold him to a Norwegian club for I think £500, which I think is one of like the first documented transfers within esports, which is pretty cool. So that was like our first little toe in the water. This year we've taken it a step further. We've signed 5-6 players who, and I'll be really honest, it's been a bit of it's not been as successful as what we wanted this year. I think we had to reevaluate the way we were signing players and who we were signing and what we were aiming for. But we brought in a couple of extra people to sort of help with the scouting process as well. And next year, I'm really quite excited for. So you guys have probably heard of Christian Sporetti, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
37th in the world on PlayStation. I think for us that's like a marquee signing. So and going into next year, I think if we can get another player on board of his caliber, like to sit on the opposite console side to go into the what do you call it, the FIFA club.
Stuff,
yeah, exactly. We can get someone of his caliber along another console. I think he's going to Xbox next year. I think he's on PlayStation this year. He's looking at doing Xbox for next year. So if we can get someone of his caliber on PlayStation as well, that would probably be our team finished for next year. But we've sort of moved quite early on, I think, compared to most teams for the next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So how exactly? Obviously, you say you use SIP to fund the esports side of it.
Yep.
How, like, is what do you think the state of FIFA esports is at the moment in terms of profitability for all? Because I know it's tough. It's tough as a player to find an org that's willing to invest, because obviously, you know, it's a difficult esport to get into.
No, I agree fully. The best way I could put it is, so the way I see the FIFA esports scene at the moment, it's almost like you've got the Premier League, right? So take the Premier League as an example, millions of pounds in there, you know, very profitable.
Yeah.
Players being paid an awful lot of money. Now, in some ways, the FIFA esports scene is similar to that. You've got a top 16 sort of level of player that's actually probably making decent money out of this, and they're the likes of the people that are winning the tournaments, those that are qualifying on a regular basis, those that are signed with a big club. And they are the people that are actually making some half decent money from FIFA. But whereas with the Premier League, below that, you've got the Championship, League One, League Two, and then the Conference. You don't really have that. You've got the Premiership, and then it drops off a cliff to sort of like a conference level, where people are still having part-time jobs to work on the side of it as well. The reality of it is at the moment, every man and his dog would love to play FIFA for a living. I think you guys would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
to play FIFA for a living, let's be honest, it's like a childhood dream, isn't it? I'll be honest with you, I'm 27 now, 28 this summer. I'm probably past it. I'll never make that level, which is why I've gone into the esports as a team. It's a bit of a shame, but every young man wants to do it. But because of that, what have you got? You've probably got 1,000 Elite 1 level players at least in the game at the moment.
Yeah.
Being Elite 1 isn't good enough anymore. Being top 100 isn't good enough anymore. You need to be able to qualify for events, and that's the difference. We figured that out this year because we signed one or two. I'm going to call them weekend league merchants for the team this year. They were fantastic weekend league. They come to any of the qualifier events and they fucking fall apart.
Yeah.
No. So, and I think that's where Christian's slightly different. He's not actually fantastic at weekend league, and he won't mind me saying this. He's not brilliant at weekend league, but he is superb at beating other pro players, and that's the difference. That's the difference. But in terms of money, there is not a lot of money in FIFA at the moment.
No,
there's not. The top teams will either have clubs that are backing them, and so for them it's a social media exercise, or they'll have other competitive teams that will have decent sponsorships. In terms of FIFA and the level of sponsorship out there, there's not a lot. There's not a lot, which is why we're doing something a bit different with the trading side. We run the biggest one in the world. We've got just short of 1,000 members in there at the moment.
Okay.
And that's funding everything that we're doing at the moment. Would we love sponsors? Yeah, of course we would, and that's our next aim. But when you think we're averaging about 10 to 15 million people in terms of our reach and engagements and bits and pieces across our social media platforms at the moment, and we're still not getting much interest in sponsors, which is like 10 times bigger than most teams.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is there is money in there, but it's only at the top level, and until EA step in and they create either smaller step-up tournaments or a wider range of tournaments to make it more inclusive, actively engage with the sponsors, make sure that it's not people aren't just watching their streams for the free giveaways, because let's be honest, most people just tune into these major events because they want a free hullet or whatever, the 0.01% of a chance. Until they make that more accessible to people and more interesting and more engaging, then I think the esports has got a massive future, but they're just not unlocking it at the moment. I don't think it's their priority either. That's the sad reality.
It does almost seem like they're a bit standoffish, as in they don't really want to put a lot of money into it. Because I know, obviously the prize pools that of like the major events across the year, they're obviously, they could be improved, they could be bettered.
100%.
But I think if they're better, then they need to start. Well, if they were to better them, they then need to start looking at, as you say, lower levels, because obviously, you take CS:GO for example as an esport. They've got the top level majors, where teams qualify for majors. So much money in it at the top level. But then under that, you've got amateur. Well, I say amateur, obviously very high level still, but amateur leagues. People are still making a decent bit of money off it. Whereas as FIFA, as you say, it does seem like it's only
one
it
bracket.
literally is Premier League and then conference, as you say.
Yeah.
I think it speaks volumes when you've got top level players can go and be let's be really blunt about this. Top level players can go away and be average content creators and make more money. That's the reality of it. So they're on Twitch, they're on YouTube. They're not particularly great at streaming, but because the gameplay's decent, people will sub to them, send them bits, ask for help, that sort of thing. They will make more money from content creation than actually playing at a top level in esports at the moment. And that's kind of sad, really, isn't it? Because
it is a big issue.
What that does then, of course, what they're going to chase? They're going to chase the content creation rather than trying to stay at the pinnacle of their abilities within FIFA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I agree, because if you think about it, if we talk about someone that's maybe controversial in the scene, someone like Kurt, for example, who got banned from events. He actually didn't mind being banned from events because he could easily just transition to content creation.
Yep.
And he was actually making more from doing that. He had at one point he was having 15,000 viewers in a stream.
It's nuts.
And that's insane numbers for Twitch. So he's doing that, making, probably more in an hour than he did at a whole event.
Exactly. He there's no doubt about it. He'd have made so much more money from content creation than he ever would have done at an event, which is ridiculous because the guy was clearly talented. I mean, I don't think he would never won a major, did he? But he was
clearly
very talented.
Yeah, he was a solid. I think potentially this year he might have had a chance, I think, to maybe, go all the way in an event, but obviously he didn't get that chance because he was, kicked out like the first few for Champs Cup. So I think as well, I think there's also an issue with it as well, like with other, esports, I guess, like there's more like things like places like Fortnite, games like Fortnite, CSGO, CODs, and Overwatch. It seems as though they've at least shared that they're investing. With Fortnite saying that they had last year that they were going to announce a prize pool collectively of like, I think was it 10 or 100 million? I can't remember.
It was a ridiculous.
It's something like
yeah.
insane number, and they said that from the start. This is what we're going to do for this year. We've made intention to invest, and it's the same with with other esports. Or there is a thing that yes, they've had more time to sort of grow, because if you look at the likes of League and CSGO, that kind of scene's been around for decades, whereas FIFA's kind of only just really say, from maybe 10, 13, 14. It's been kind of small from the start, and now it's starting to grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just seems that there needs to be more of a push there to.
Yeah.
I think as well, EA need to be more open, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I swear they released the details of the competitive year in like October, November. So that's after pros have invested potentially thousands of pounds into FIFA points.
Yeah.
They like they're not even open about it. Like before the year, like this is what we're gonna do. This is how it's gonna get. Like they wait until it's like pros have already invested.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From a team's perspective, like as well, it's a massive gamble, because we've got to try and sign players before it's too late, because the ideal window to build your team is going to be start as soon as the game comes out, the first couple of weeks in October, and they are crucial weeks to get going, and we've got to pick and choose players as quickly as we can before other teams become interested, potentially larger teams and top level players, and move quickly. So yeah, it's a nightmare. We should be having these, similar to when the Premier League starts, or a normal football calendar comes out, you get the fixture list before the season begins. Not like mid-season or after the start of the season. So there needs to be more transparency from EA on that part. Just in general, like communication from EA is shambolic. We had a problem with one of our players this year, in which he was accused of coin transferring. Now I will be very, very clear. I've looked at it. I've spoken to the guy. He's always been very much above the rules, not above the rules, but he's always been law-abiding. He's a stickler for the rules more than anything. He got a little bit lucky, and one of his players that he listed was bought for max bid. That's what's happened. And as a result, though, he's been banned. He was banned from all future competitions. Now, trying to speak to EA about it to get them to actually look at it properly just doesn't happen. There's no communication, even from an esports perspective. So I think, I understand the cost restraints between interacting with the entire FIFA community, because it's massive. Let's be honest, there's millions of players and millions of people would be in touch with them. I'm sure probably to moan a lot, but just from like the esports team perspective, having some sort of acknowledgement and like a point of contact for when you've got a registered team, it would be lovely. It would make things just a little bit smooth, a little bit easier.
Well, that's the thing as well, as you say, because when EA release, I don't know what you call it, like the ban notes almost, like who's been banned. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to say it, but
there's like the disciplinary.
Yeah, that's
the one. Committee
meetings. I don't think they even talk to the players first. They don't let the players know. It's just if your name's on that list, you're gone.
You're named in shame in public.
Without
and then
even speaking to or doing any digging whatsoever.
And it ties you with a brush, and then there's no. It's a bit like you're guilty until proven innocent in that case, isn't it? There's no trial, there's no nothing. It's just whack, you're done.
Yeah, but then when you want to go through a means of going through a trial, you can't, because the court isn't open. Do you know what I mean?
There's no tribunals, there's no appeals.
There's no appeal. You can't appeal anything, it seems, with that thing. It's like a third party just say, "Oh, we don't want you because you did this," and then there's nothing you can really do about it.
And that just emphasises the idea that EA don't care about their esport at all. Obviously, they run the tournaments, they put a little bit of money into it, but I think just even that, as I say, emphasises that they don't really prioritise it whatsoever.
I can give you guys an example. So last year, myself and some of the team, because we've got a 20, 30 strong sort of team of volunteers, we went to Wembley last year to watch the finals where Mo Auber lifted the trophy.
Yeah.
And they were unveiling at the same time some of the FIFA 20 the sort of demos and bits, and it felt fantastic. Then God knows what they did.
Yeah, it kind of went downhill from there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a little bit. We played this game at this Wembley. Wow, this is incredible. This is gonna be the best game of FIFA in years. And then it got released. Like, what the fuck's this? No idea. But we went to the Wembley event, and we had a great time of the day because we had a few beers and whatnot, a bit of a laugh. Great to get the team together. But I'll tell you something. The stadium was they'd partitioned it, they closed most of it off and had a stage right near the front.
Yeah.
So the actual capacity was greatly reduced. The upper tiers were all closed off, and actually, you probably had about a third of the seats sold. Oh. And the really sad part about it is, so you go to some of these CS:GO events and bits and pieces. They are selling stadiums out. They are selling stadiums out. 50, 80,000 people, whatever. They're selling them out. This was a free event. Anyone could just rock up.
Yeah.
And it was. I think there might have been a booking charge in fairness, but it was just unbelievable that you had so many empty seats. The part of the reason was they didn't advertise it particularly well. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's just it's such an afterthought for them.
Yeah.
Such an afterthought.
You'd think from like a publicity standpoint, if you want to get an esport out there, you'd advertise it. Like the reason why Fortnite has become so big is obviously because of how much the game blew up in the first place. But the actual esport also grew up because it was advertised literally everywhere. You couldn't go onto Twitter, you couldn't go onto any sort of social media, you couldn't go online without seeing something mentioned about Fortnite or something mentioned about cups or something mentioned about this and that. And in the way that sort of that Epic Games has sort of gone with the competitive scene and sort of opened it up to everybody, it means that everyone sort of has a chance or has like a little bit of taste of the esport genre, like sort of that competitive nature. So they can do it and they say, oh, I didn't win anything, but we got this far. Let's try again next week. And then they'll go and tell their friends about the next Cash Cup that's coming. Oh, do you want to play the Cash Cup with me? There's more people playing the game. More is being invested. They're buying V-Bucks to do this, and then Epic Games can use some of that to fund it. But in sort of that point, where are FIFA points being invested into the esport? It doesn't seem like anything's sort of being done. I'm sure they do care about it, but they're just not going through the right ways of getting out there, or at least reinvesting what they've got back into their esport.
Exactly. The whole process at the moment is completely flawed as well, because if you look at the qualification, the way to qualify at the moment, you guys have got to get, first of all, you got to get verified, haven't you? So Elite One, and let's be honest, the skill gap isn't what it used to be. To get Elite One, it seems to be easier than ever before. But that's where the fun and games probably ends, because then you've got to actually go through the Swiss rounds, which are Ziffy and Woodsy. You'll both know, I'm sure, what the qualification process was like in terms of the
phase
Swiss
1,
round.
phase 2. Don't even get me. Yeah,
exactly. And it's ridiculous. So just to qualify for an event, there's so many hoops to jump through, and it's so disorganised, and it's probably run by people that don't really understand football or FIFA. That's part of the problem as well. They don't have a dedicated team at EA. It's all subcontracted. And it's complete shambles. And actually, if anything, if I was a potential esports FIFA player and I looked at that process and going it alone, I would think, bugger this. Why would you? Why would you sit there all day?
Yeah.
It's just I understand that they're chasing a dream and whatnot, but they don't make it. It's not pretty. It's just a real shambles.
You have to literally. I don't think there's any esport where you have to sacrifice an entire weekend just to qualify for something. there's, you know, the likes of like Fortnite Cash Cup, where you have to sacrifice maybe a few hours, right, where you're just playing for like, you know, 3 or 4 hours. There's been controversy about that, those sort of qualifying things being too long.
But even then, you're playing all the time. In FIFA, the way of qualifying, you play one and then you sit there for an hour and then you play another one.
Yeah, and that too. Like the time between the games as well is like another major issue. That's partly due to admin and also, you know, people just being, you know, stupid and not turning up on time and like literally waiting until the last 15 minutes before they can
trying to play mind games.
Trying to play mind games, but there's just the whole, like, when you think about qualification, like it's worse now. It's maybe a bit worse now because of the new system, but before, when it was just Swiss and thing, you had like Saturday you had to play through Swiss, and then Sunday you played the knockout. But that was only if that all ran through and you got through Swiss in that Saturday, because there were many occasions where they'd only be in a fourth match and they'd have to move the rest of Swiss till Sunday morning and then play Sunday afternoon, or even sometimes play Monday. And the whole organisation of it, they need to really kind of sort that out and have like a set time. They could even just make it so much easier and create like sort of lobbies that we can just invite people in and do it through there, because there's problems with trying to invite people into the tournament thing as well. There's like bugs and glitches with that. So sometimes people just can't connect to each other, which shouldn't be happening in a game where they're trying to, you know, compete for money. It's funny because a lot of people say that the qualification is actually harder than the event because, you know, the time it is, and you're basically playing people that are your level, or, you know, in some cases even better, and you're playing, you know, 7 of them straight first if you get through, and then afterwards, the next day, you're potentially having to play maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 games if you go into losers. So you're playing that's like 12, 13 pros just to qualify for an event, which is just draining.
Focused all that time. Spent over 2 days. It's ridiculous. You know, it's I don't envy some of you sometimes. It's the best way I could put it. Crikey. But the thing about it is, when you actually go to these events, so I've attended a few events now, that they always seem to actually be fairly well organised. So the actual FIFA team, once you're at the event, doesn't seem too bad, because they've obviously got their own staff there. They understand the game fairly well. You know really roughly what you're doing. So I've been to the EP5 event this year, qualifying for Norwich, and you know, they tend to know more about what they're doing. It's just these online events just seem to be, and that, to be fair, that might be why they haven't actually brought back, the FIFA events just online. Perhaps they don't want to. You know, just they might think it's too much hassle. For the return on publicity. Whereas if they get some of these Premier League players in, like they have been, they're extra publicity. If you're watching your favourite footballer play rather than, you know, a FIFA player, people are more likely to tune in. You look at Sergio Aguero when he started streaming. His viewing figures were nuts, wasn't it? He's streaming from his console. So it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah. I think another problem with FIFA as an esport is that, especially FIFA 20, obviously different to FIFA 19 in that there was a lot more goals in FIFA 19. FIFA 20, I think, is a lot more boring to watch. It's a lot slower than other esports. Like it's harder to get hyped for a goal that rebounds twice over I don't know, a guy winning a 1v5 to clutch it or something like that. But I think if EA made the right game, I think it would be interesting to watch. And as people have mentioned before, I think co-op is more exciting to watch as well, because I don't know, it just gives sort of more of a team sort of vibe to it, which I think is more interesting to watch anyway.
Well, no one wants to watch 2 players sit back with 10 players each, do they?
No.
Pass it around the back and then look for the one chance a game and hope they pray for a miracle that they score. I mean, what's his name? I'm not calling anyone out when I say this, but is it Nazarek, the number 2 Xbox player in the world?
Yeah, Razak, yeah.
Yeah. If you guys ever watch him play, it's my God, it's like I could fall asleep watching that gameplay. Genuinely, I could fall asleep. At the same time, though, from a professional esports team perspective, I would sign him in a heartbeat because he's doing everything he can to win that game of FIFA. But it's just, that's not what's going to, playing FIFA that way and having a game that the meta is to drop back and that's how you defend well and whatnot. Having the game set up like that isn't going to draw in audiences. That's they need to make it fun. They need to make it exciting. You want to see like 6-5 thrillers, don't you? With a last ditch goal in the 90th minute that wasn't just pure scripting. That's what people want to see. But the 1-0 wins at the moment in the Pro Seed is just mind numbing. Absolutely mind numbing.
All right.
I think as well. Just quickly, I think with the whole sort of like meta thing as well, they need to stop changing the meta every like few weeks or kind of changing the game as much, because I think people kind of switch off it because it becomes this thing where there's this style and then 2 months down the line there's a new style. So at the start it was all possession, now it's team press. So
I think that's another issue with EA, because as you said, Callum, you look at the first 2 weeks of the new FIFA, right, and you use that as your window to get any new players in and see who's good at this new game. But then a couple of weeks later, EA bring out a massive patch which effectively changes the game so much. So it's like you've signed players that were good at pre-patch, and then after the patch, somebody else is good.
Goalposts have moved, haven't they? Yeah, it's ridiculous. So which is why our focus really has been more about players that we think can adapt better than anyone else. People that have consistently proven that they can change and adapt, and then blending that in with some youth players to bring in. So, from a team management perspective, it's incredibly frustrating. Frustrating, but got to make the most of it, haven't we? It's either that or we'll all start playing COD. Here's Matt COD. I'm not sure it's got the same ringtone to it. There we go.
I mean, NBA was only $3.99 on.
Yeah, well, there you go. What a bargain.
That's what we've been doing. That's why Liam didn't finish his weekend league.
Was it really?
Weekend league last week. So.
Oh dear. What did you finish on then?
Silver 3, 6-1.
Oh mate. Dear. That one quit and you've quit the whole. You've lost one.
I lost one. Dashboard 2K. That was
wow. Yeah. I always don't blame you.
Alex, have you got anything to say? Any questions about this topic?
Yeah, it's very spicy. I'm just here for the chat, I can't even lie to you. I'm looking at the chat and I'm just like, well.
Yeah, there's been a lot of beef in the chat.
I'm like, well.
Is it all kicking off? Is it?
Yeah, I know it's
kind of all kicking off.
I just wanted to point out a few. I just want to read just a few things that's been said. I'll start off with Falcon. He says, I matched 2 30-0 players last weekend. Some guy got 30-0 and matched 1 Elite 3 player. Hammond says, Curtis has a dead team, but PS can be pissed with right matchmaking. David says, I've achieved the most serious about FIFA, so I don't need to say anything, So I don't know, but it's really kicking off in this chat.
Well, I think
what's your thoughts?
I think the mention of weekend league is actually a good way to move us onto our next segment.
Yeah.
So
definitely, yeah.
So Callum, when you're looking at players to sign, when you're scouting players, what do you look at? What makes a player investable?
Appealing, yeah. Well, look, this has changed over the last 12 months. So when we were moving into FIFA 20, the players we looked to sign, we were looking at the people that were smashing out weekend league still, that we felt were, with a bit of a push from our perspective, we could push them from being a really good weekend league player to taking that through qualifications with a slightly better team and having the investment and support from us behind them. That's what we felt. So we almost went after people that were performing really well in weekend league and try to develop them into something a bit better. Now, that hasn't worked. people, in particular on PlayStation, you can go a whole weekend league without matching now another pro 30-0 player.
Mm-hmm.
You can go a whole weekend without matching another one. And so I'm not saying average players because they're not average. Decent players who will never make it in terms of qualification are hitting 30-0.
Mm-hmm.
Which from our perspective just means, well, there's no point looking at them players anymore. Because if we want to make an event, we need to do something a bit different. Now, what's interesting is certainly if you look through the history of FUT Champs events and bits and pieces, it's amazing how often you see the same names coming up. Players that have made one event, two events, three events, four events. You get the occasional players who've made one event, and then you've got the top core players who, let's be real, from our esports perspective, they're completely out of our league in terms of budget. But there are certain players that consistently, they might not prove themselves in weekend league, but in terms of events and qualifications, they are superb. And Christian falls into that bracket. That's what we've changed a little bit this year. So we signed Christian. Obviously, he's made, I think, 2 events this year, 3 the previous year. He's an event maker. That's the best way I can describe it. In terms of weekend league qualification, he's not fantastic, because what he does, he doesn't focus on weekend league. He sits there, and what he does is he plays other pros consistently, and he gives them different scenarios to give him. So he says, press the ball, sit back, play against him. So it's a bit like, you know how you've all heard about how Cristiano Ronaldo, he sits there and he practices his free kicks, his whatever. He spends hours after training. He's constantly honing, trying to perfect himself. To Christian, that's what it's all about to him. He's consistently trying to perfect himself, and that's not by playing weekend league. Because I actually think if you consistently play weekend league and you're getting 30, what you're actually doing is you're adapting yourself to beat the average FIFA player. You're not adapting yourself to beat other pro players, especially on PlayStation. So our philosophy changed a little bit. So what we've aimed for FIFA 2021 is we're still looking for one more player. It's no secret. We're looking for another PlayStation event level player to sit alongside Christian. So we've got 2 event level players. These players, we're going to hit them with 250,000 FIFA points to get started. Decent monthly wage, bonuses if they make events, that sort of thing. Beneath that, we're then looking. We've signed sort of players that we think are doing reasonably well in qualifiers. They haven't technically made a major event. A great example of that would be Tuds. So 2 years ago, Tuds was in the final of qualification, missed out by 1 game. I think this year he was 2 games away, so he's thereabouts as Tuds. We've then signed Hammond, who's made the Chelsea EP5 finals, so he's qualified for Chelsea.
I support Chelsea, so.
Do you? Mate, he's quality.
Yeah,
he's quality.
Okay. I'm just saying. I just want to throw that in. Yeah. Don't disappoint me, Hammond,
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I've got bad news. He's representing Norwich next year now. What?
Hammond, we're not friends no more, Hammond.
Yeah.
No, Hammond, no more.
He doesn't know. To be fair, he doesn't know that yet. He's just found out.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
So, players like that who are, I think by having an event level player, they could potentially learn from the event level player, and take bits away from that. And we brought in Nero as a coach as well. So some of you will have heard of Jay Nero. I know some of you know him quite well. We've brought him in as a coach. I think he looked at it and said, you know what, I'm probably not good enough to be at the top level of esports, but with his degree and bits and pieces, he's certainly more than capable of coaching. So we're quite excited to bring him in. And then beneath that again, so I think we've got too many players on our books at the moment. There'll be 1 or 2 players whose contracts we don't renew at the end of the season. The boys already know this. They're all competing to have their contracts renewed. But below that, then at the very base level, as I'll call it, is this is to me is like the raw talent of the future. We're looking at sort of 16 to 19-year-old players that are coming through, showing real raw potential, and are consistently qualifying for weekend league. But I'm going to be really upfront and honest with you guys. Those guys aren't getting paid monthly, because from our esports perspective, 95% of them probably will never make an event. We will give them a few FIFA points to start with. We'll probably buy them FIFA 21, but that's it. Now, a lot of teams at the moment are also, most teams, let's be honest, most teams don't pay anything to anyone. Below a certain level. If anything, what they actually do is they say, well, you can represent us, we'll give you a free shirt, and then if you make an event, we'll take 40% of your winnings, which is ridiculous. So there's no investment risk for them. We're a little bit different. We don't ask for anything below 5k in terms of winning. So from an EA's perspective, from the event perspective, you're making anything above 5k, you're not going to care if we take 10%. You know, it's a fraction of you know, the odds are in our players' favour, so to put it. But yeah, I think until you get to a certain level, there's no money in FIFA. But yeah, in terms of the esports level, people focus too much on weekend league and the results that it gives you. The best you're going to get from a weekend league is you're going to get a half decent streamer that'll open your packs, and you might get a bit of money from it.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, isn't it? You know, you're not getting paid for it. Once you've made Elite 1, who gives a shit? You're verified. Congratulations, you can take part in the events as long as you hit Elite 1. Every 2-3 months, you're fine.
Yeah.
So,
that's very true. I had a question to ask. Are you finished?
No, far away, mate.
Yeah, that's a question to ask them. So, you said like at a very lower level, obviously the teenagers that are coming in, don't pay them, you just will get them for 21 and stuff like that. If there's obviously, I know there's so many people in here and some players will be watching. What do they have to do to like impress you? Like if they want to kind of get into maybe like an academy or something like that, that you have that they're watching and think, okay, well, like FIFA 20s, we're kind of coming to the end of its cycle. So what do they kind of need to be doing?
There's a couple of things we've looked at, and again, this has changed over recently. One of the things from our perspective is when we're looking at signing any player, and this is from the top to the bottom, whatever. When we're looking at signing any player, we have to look at how marketable they are, right? Because at the end of the day, the way that we're looking to drive this forward is we want to actually sign like a major sponsor on board. Someone like a Corsair, someone like an Elgato, that sort of thing that we're going to brand on the shirts, put on our streams, put it on the social media, whatever. We want something like that. Now, if we've got, and I'm going to be really blunt about this, if we've got some esports player that's slagging off the game every other tweet, right? If we've got a professional sponsor looking to come in and they look at one of our players slagging off the game on every other tweet, guess what? They're not gonna be interested. You don't see professional footballers, do you? Slagging off football. It's like, you don't see them criticising the crowd for booing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they go like, oh, F the ref because they messed up on this decision.
I do get it. Like, let's be honest, the game is a little bit shit at times. And I say
perfect by any means.
Yeah, no. It's not perfect. It could do with a bit of improvement / a complete rewrite. Just by slagging them off,
get it out.
just by slagging them off, you're not going to change anything.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing you're going to do is you're going to put us off. So that's one of the first things we now look at is, okay, what have they said in the past? What's their social media presence like? That's one of the things we look at.
Yeah.
Next of all, we don't do this at the higher levels, but at the lower levels, if we're interested, we'll put them through a trial. Okay? So when we put them through a trial, it will normally involve 2-3 other players. And I'm going to be really honest, if you lose one of those games, we're probably not going to be interested. Like,
you've heard this, guys. You're listening, yeah? You're a player right there. You're hearing this. If you lose those games at the trial, just forget it. Forget it.
I'll give you an example. So last year, we were looking at a player. I won't give you any names. I won't embarrass him. But we were short on people to play him. So I stepped up and offered to play him. Okay? Now, I myself, last year was Elite 2, this year Elite 3, whatever. Not the best FIFA player, certainly not competitive in the slightest, right? Now, I beat this guy 3-1.
That's awkward.
Very awkward. And he said to me after that, he said, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't quite at the races today. Came up with every excuse left, right and centre, which I understand. You're trying to defend yourself, whatever. Now, my point to him was, look, if you can't beat me in a trial, what are you going to do when you get to a top level event and you've got thousands of people around the world watching you? You're going to bottle it. So it's about having that consistency, that mental coolness. So if you can't beat 3 players as a trial, I probably wouldn't take it any further. And that's the harsh reality. I know some teams do trials as well. Some people just say, "Oh, Elite 1, you'll do." The other thing that we look at, I think it's key, is when because esports do, if we're at the top level, so Christian's level, we have a short list. Like, we know who we want to go over. We'll do our research. We'll watch some of their games. We'll do a little bit of a background check on them, whatever. We don't just approach someone because they've made an event, if you see what I mean. We're after a certain caliber of player. Yeah. At the lower levels, to be fair, we're a little bit more open about it. But if someone approaches us, they send us an email, or they jump into our inbox and they go, "Hi, you're right, mate," and it's all slang. "Hi, you right," with an A, mate, M8, all that kind of crap, instantly I switch off because I think, how can I work with this guy if he's not in his approach to become a professional esporter? If his approach doesn't match that, you wouldn't send in a CV to a job with that, would you?
No.
So you gotta take your approach, and if it's well worded, we'll 9 times out of 10, if it's well worded, we'll get back to someone about it. And even if it's a no, we're not interested, at least if they've taken the time out to actually write something that's decent, then we will respond. But at the end of the day, I mean, from my perspective, as an esports team perspective, we're lucky. Like, let's be honest, there are more players than there are team slots available, especially the ones that are paying. So we get to pick who we want in some ways, especially at the lower levels. That's the reality of it.
So is it? So obviously you say you brought in more people to like sort of scout. So do you yourself do much scouting, or do you leave it down to other people?
I used to, till I made some shocking signings last year. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no.
Open dig.
Yeah, that sounded like he wasn't kidding, you know.
I'll let people work out who that was aiming at.
I'm here to stare at the pot. I'm just staring tonight.
If your chat wasn't on fire before, it is now, isn't it? That's
yeah, we got it, man.
In fairness, I look at every what we do as part of the process of joining us. We also have like a Zoom meeting. So I used to take part more than what I do now, but we have like a Zoom meeting that includes myself. There's John, who's our esports manager. So he manages the actual team, and then Nero as well as the coach. And we try and get a feel for the player and a bit of an understanding, because at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. So we've got to be able to work with them. They've got to be able to work with us. So there's not that chemistry. Like we had a, and again, I'm not going to give any names, but we had an event level player that we were quite interested in. He showed a bit of interest in the messages that we had backwards and forwards. We went to a Zoom meeting, and he sat there. And he completely closed off to us. He held his cards to his chest. He didn't give anything away. Very neutral, almost like he had no emotions. Like it was like he had ice in his veins, and he was playing an esports game at the time. And I'm like, this is a casual chat on Zoom. Like, we're just trying to get to know each other before we make you a formal offer, and you're giving us nothing. So, moving forward, how can we possibly work with that? And so, as a result of that Zoom meeting, which was meant to be informal, we didn't take things any further. Simply because you've got to be able to click with your players as well. So your answer, I don't take as much of a role as I used to in signing players. I'm quite outspoken, as you guys can probably tell. My esports manager, John, if he's watching this, will be creasing right now. But the process we've got now is so much more professional. And there are certain tick boxes that need to be ticked if we're going to sign anyone.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to ask you in sort of the reverse side. So, in terms of like, if someone is wanting to say build an esports org, what sort of things do they need or need to show so that they kind of are seen as maybe appealing, if we're going to use that word? Like, what sort of things do they need to show to like sort of prove that they are an org worthy of joining? Or wanted to join. You
guys have you guys will have, you guys are. I mean, we've got 2 pro players in here as we speak. Like I say pro, elite level 1. Obviously, Zippy, congratulations on your contract again.
Thank you.
You guys will know that there are so many tin pot esports organisations that, let's be honest, it's probably a 16-year-old in his mum's basement that isn't good enough.
Let's not mention any names in the chat, but I'm sure a lot of people in the chat will know.
Oh really? There's someone that we're thinking
One of those.
Okay. To be fair, I wasn't naming or shaming anyone there, but there's I've seen a few. Look, if you want to be seen as a professional esports, first of all, you can't just be there for, like, let's be honest, we've been doing this now for 2 years, right? We've grown from having signed one Swedish kid, Tonesy, to now signing one of the top players in the world. Now that's taken 2 years to get to that point. When you set up an esports organization, you're not going to get sponsors rolling in straight off the bat. Don't think you are, because you're not. I mean, we've been doing it for 2 years and we're still fucking looking. You're not going to get a sponsor come rolling in. You're not going to sign one of the biggest esports names going. Tex isn't going to come knocking on your door and says, "All right, Johnny, I know you're in your mum's basement, but I've decided I want to sign for you." I think you've got real potential there. and you've done some sick graphics on Photoshop, so that looks great.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I like your little slogan. There's something of ups, whatever. Look, to build an esports team takes time, and I think you've got to raise your brand awareness. Just posting results and stuff on your Twitter page, that doesn't really cut the mustard anymore. You've got to have a certain level of interaction to build a fan base, and people are going to follow what you do. So we've done it a very different way to most teams. We've got 50,000 members in our FIFA group on Facebook. We've got I stream personally. I've got 75,000 followers under the name of Serious About FIFA. We've signed 3 or 4 other streamers now that are streaming under our name, and they've got several thousand followers between them as well. We've got the SBC Tips Twitter account, which has got nearly 75,000 followers in its own right. We're building an Instagram page with nearly 5,000 followers. But all of those things that they're actually being built on, perhaps, except the Serious About FIFA Twitter page itself, like they're being built on interactions and interacting with the FIFA public and community. And that's through a mix of giveaways, that's through funny memes, that's through FIFA information, that's through trading, and it brings the whole package together.
Yeah.
But what that means is in effect, you build a following, and just by signing an esports player, that's not going to do it. You have to have a complete package. You have to have an end product, so to put it. You look at some of the biggest esports teams in the world. Let's look at FaZe as an example. People would be able to name more FaZe content creators than they would players. I'm fairly sure of that.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that get the interactions and the engagements. But FaZe, let's be honest, underneath it all really is an esports team or a content management team, whatever you want to look at it. So just having an esports player isn't enough anymore. It isn't enough. And that to me is that, unless you're going to bankroll it with millions of pounds, it won't be a success otherwise. And let's be honest, most people don't have that money just sitting there, do they?
No.
So yeah, that would be my advice. Don't just focus. It sounds daft. Don't just focus on the esports side. Even if you are an esports event, make something more of it, because otherwise, what? Let's be honest. If the game isn't great like it's been this year, you're not going to grow it, are you?
No.
I
agree. Just kind of want to go back to the chat, 'cause I think a lot of people have been asking questions, and I've seen that people want some things answered. So just
chat's amazing tonight. I'm loving it, chat.
It is popping off.
But if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat.
Yeah, happy to answer them, guys.
And we'll have them through. Someone, I think David Muzzer was talking about, as you mentioned before, about the beating high-end players. In the stage of sort of like FIFA 20 with kind of how weekend league can be, and how they kind of do say like anyone can kind of beat anyone. If you were to like take someone in now and kind of do that trial, in terms of that, would that sort of play an effect on your decisions? Like if someone would play a high-end player, like one of your event players, and like was narrowly, like didn't lose but maybe drew, or was like narrowly close, what kind of things would you still kind of take them in terms of, like, if you were looking at a younger player and they had that potential there, or would it just be a complete, like, they didn't win, so no? Or is there like, the door.
In fairness, at the lower levels, we probably wouldn't put them up against Christian. That wouldn't be fair on our part. Let's be honest, Christian is born to beat other pro players. So not many people are going to beat him. I don't want to brag, but I did draw with him on stream. I'm sure he was trying his hardest, but I don't want to brag. In terms of the lower levels perspective, we would aim to put them on players that are either slightly below where they should be, or on the same level as such. Now, at the same time, you guys have probably heard the famous saying, "Even a broken clock gets it right twice a day." The same thing applies to esports players. Like, they can have bad days, and you guys can have good days. Which is why we try and take into factor, mitigating circumstances, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, we're not just looking for one result or 3 results or 5 results. When we're looking to sign a player, we're looking to sign a player realistically, because we think we can develop them. We think they've got the potential to reach the top, and we think we can work with them. And it's if you can tick all of those boxes that then we will take our interest in you slightly more seriously. See what I did there? Serious about FIFA.
I just want to quickly say, I'm seeing Luke say, I've slapped Christian multiple times. Is that true, Luke? How many times have you beaten? He's saying you should give him the contract.
I think he was.
No, I don't know.
They are both Maltese, so that they played against each other a lot.
They probably do. Yeah.
I reckon they played each other about 100 times. So. Of course you're gonna win. Of course you're gonna slap him multiple times, Luke. Yeah.
Yes, he's probably slapped you a few times as well. I think there's only one of them that's made an event.
Oh, Luke, I wouldn't have that, Luke. You know, Luke, I wouldn't have that. You know, Luke. Talk to me, bro. Talk to me. I've also seen MT Jill said he's beat a lot of players as well, so he should have the contract. So I don't know.
But it's the difference. So like, people could beat other people on a regular basis all the time, right? But if you need to have that consistency of being able to make an event and keeping your cool at the right times. Because under no pressure, I've seen. I'll give you an example. One of our players he's superb when he's not under pressure. He's genuinely one of the best players I've ever played against that we signed for this year when there's no pressure. And I'm not going to embarrass him by sending any names out there. But as soon as we put him into any form of pressure environment, he crumbled. And it was completely a mindset thing. And we tried our best to work. Well, I say we tried our best. John and Nero tried to do various bits with him. He wasn't particularly interested with it. But as a result, that side of his game was always there. He can smash out a 30-0 weekend league anytime. He's genuinely superb in weekend league because there's no pressure. But as soon as we put him into an event situation, like I think we went into the E-clubs thing and he completely failed. You know, and it's just, you know, it's having that aspect to your game as well. So, you know, part of, I mean, you guys will know this. With FIFA, part of the battle is mental. 100%. And if you can't keep your cool, can't play your best FIFA when you need to play your best FIFA, like, you won't make it to the top level. That's what the likes of Tex has got. Tex can play great FIFA, but he can play great FIFA whenever he wants to. You know, he can do it at the very top level consistently, time and time again, which is why he's won so many events.
I think another part of it is play styles. Like, you'll often find somebody that's like your kryptonite, that you think that, you know, you're a better player than because you beat everyone else and they can't beat that person, but they beat you every time because their play style counteracts yours, and it works both ways. Like, you can beat everyone.
I call those gold 2 players.
One person.
Yeah, there's gold 2 players.
Yeah, pretty much. Gold 2 and gold 1 weekend league players.
That's the one, mate. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh no. Yeah. In the chat, I heard there's a lot of them in the chat. In the chat I was reading, they were saying there's a lot of weekend league merchants that do hit 29s, but I don't know. Chat, talk to me. What was you saying, David? Like, there's a lot of weekend league merchants. I see one of your comments there. So I don't know. I don't know what that's about.
I mean,
that's
Jay asked a good question. So obviously, serious about FIFA. You know, FIFA is in the name. Would you ever look to branch out to any other esports, or is it solely FIFA?
We briefly looked at going to when Apex Legends launched. We looked at that and then went, oh shit, it's another EA title. So we've looked at other games before, but at the moment we're not actually big enough to go into other esports right now, because the way I look at it, again, going back to tin pot esports clubs and teams and whatnot, like, how many times do you see a really small esports team but they've got like 6 different teams and they're like competing in CSGO and Apex Legends and all this at the same time? And like, well, actually, how do you focus, and how do you specialize in all of those? It's like the jack of all trades, isn't it? Master of none. It's like, how can you possibly say you're the best at all of these things? And the answer is they're not. You know, they don't really compete on many fronts unless you're one of the major organisations that can, you know, pay people tens of thousands of pounds to be the best, you know, to hire the best possible players in the world. Which is why, so at the moment we are purely focused on FIFA, which is, you know, SAF is the, whatever you want to call it, the acronym, whatever you want to say it. I also don't think it works particularly well with other things. So like COD, SAC doesn't quite work, does it?
You could have SAF for Fortnite.
SAF for Fortnite, exactly. Yeah. Serious about Fortnite. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, we if we ever make it as a top level team, that's our ambition. You know, we want to be top 5 esports teams within FIFA. That's
Yeah.
our long-term plan. If we ever make it to that level and go, right, okay, we've got a decent sponsor on board, we've got consistent revenue coming in, you know, our brand is growing to a certain size, then 100% we'd definitely look at other games. But at the moment, it's going to be FIFA for the foreseeable future anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good question.
I've got another question about the players that you've currently got contracted.
Yeah.
With the renewal of those contracts, would you, as you said about the the signing period, the first couple of weeks of a new FIFA, do you wait to renew those contracts until you see what they can do at the start of that FIFA, or do you, like now, for example, would you say now I'm going to renew it for the next year or so, whatever?
So what's happening? So this last year we had 6 players on our books. One was on a 6-month contract. He left us in February. He's great at squad battles. All right, a weekend league, terrible at events. We sacked another. I say sacked. Sacked is not the right word. We parted ways without payment of another player who just stopped playing FIFA. Understandable. You know, if you're not going to play FIFA, why would you be a part of an esports team? Doesn't look great.
Yeah.
There was another player that just last week we turned around and said, look, you don't really. I'll be really honest. You don't feature in our plans for next year. So as a result, we're paying them off for the remainder of this contract, and they won't be renewed. In all of our players' contracts, we have the option to renew the contract for next year. And the reason for that is to be really blunt about it. If, for example, they had a sensational season within FIFA, then of course we would want to keep them. But if they're on a 1-year contract, because that's what most clubs offer as an outright contract. If they're on a 1-year contract, at the end of that contract, they can go wherever. So we've got a clause there to renew automatically. There are 3 that we're still deciding on, but they will all know before August if we're renewing or not. And the reason for that is because with our investment with them, the FIFA points of buying the game, like we want them to have. They'll all have the ultimate edition of the game. We want them to be on the game from day one. You know, grinding drafts, opening packs, doing whatever. We don't want to have to wait 3 weeks until we know if they're good or not, and someone else is going to come in and potentially snap them up. And at the same time, I'm sure the players also appreciate knowing what's going on. Because let's be honest, from the players' perspective, having that undecisiveness as to what's going on, am I going to be part of a team? Am I going to get any FIFA points, any support, any backing from anywhere coming in? I think it's good from their perspective to have that assurance of what's actually happening. And I think we're very upfront with our players. You know, we don't hide behind anything. We say things exactly how they're going to be, and that's our plan. And I think with the trading Discord as well, what's brilliant with our players is we can, for example, players in Belgium, I mean, they're screwed, aren't they? Let's be honest. Pro players that live in Belgium, can't buy FIFA points. How do you compete without that? Well, from our perspective, we can go, okay, well, we've got the world's largest premium investing trading Discord. So we will, instead of you like opening packs to glory, we're going to trade you to glory. And we can have, we've got a team of about 15 investors. We can just sit an investor with them and say, this is what you need to buy. This is when you sell, you will make coins, and we'll get them up that way. So, what we can offer players is a bit different to most esports organizations. But sorry, I got off the tangent here. Going back to your original question.
Go ahead, whatever you have to say. Just
it's all coming out tonight.
It's all good. It's release yourself, man. Whatever you got to say.
Been pent up for so long, goddammit. In terms of the players that we've got, if we're going to renew them, they will know by August. And I think from the 3 that we've got, we'll probably keep 1 or 2.
Okay.
1 or 2.
I've got one question.
Go for it.
To ask. So you were saying that Elite 1 and Top 100 is just not good enough anymore. So what did you really mean by that? Like, it's not good enough, or like Top 100 is not good enough? You want event level players who.
Yeah. Because the classic example of this is if you hit 30-0 for the last couple of weekends, you haven't made Top 100 on PlayStation. Like, you win every single damn game, and you're not Top 100 on PlayStation. On top of that, let's be honest, who actually really knows how the skill rating works?
No one.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to beat players by as many points as you can. David Abreu was a classic example of this. He finished 100th. There was a game that was played after the deadline of weekend league. The guy won it by 10 goals and 0. And he got knocked out of it. It's a complete fix. He got knocked out of that Top 100 spot as a result. Complete fix.
Yeah, it was.
But EA, but my point is you've got so many of those players now. Only X amount of those players will make an event at any point, and it's the same all the way through to Elite One. Even some Elite Two players that are capable of hitting Elite One. There are literally thousands of people that can hit that level. But from our perspective, from a team's perspective, we've got to decide out of those players who we actually think has got the potential to go a stage further, which is why Elite One is not good enough.
So you need more than just good weekend league results to prove someone. Yeah.
And a really good way of proving yourself is some of these smaller tournaments that you get through sort of the likes of the EEG. Yeah. Myself and John, we've hosted. In fact, I think Ziffy, you were involved in that one. I think, weren't you, mate?
Yeah. I got to the semis.
Yeah, you got to the semis, and then I can't remember the scores. I think it was a close game. Hosting events like that, participating in events like that, proving that you can beat other players of a similar caliber. Like, from us, if we see that on your timeline, we're going to go, "Oh, this kid can play. Let's look a little bit closer." So,
can you name some of those events that people just might be listening in right now?
Yeah.
What are those events that you?
Well, I think somebody asked before as well if you at SAF are going to run another tournament that's similar.
Yeah, 100%. Let's be honest. Team of the season's got another week or two, so. Day to day, like I stream every day, guys, from 10:30. Cheeky plug here on Facebook. I stream 10:30. Let's be honest. The content saga, as we know it, is coming to an end. We've got team of the season, and then you'll probably see the footies cards, and then that's pretty much game dead, isn't it? So we will need something to fill our time from end of June to September, or maybe July till September. Something like that in this calendar. So we're looking at hosting events. We're looking at pro clubs just to fill the time more than anything. But part of those will be pro events where it will be free entry and we'll throw out 100 good prize. And from that, the last time we did one of those events, Ziffy, again, you took part in that. The guy that won it, we actually approached to join us as a player. He said no.
I remember speaking to him. He said something like he didn't think that he was good enough to sign for an org, so he didn't want to. Something like that.
Yeah, which is nuts. He was crazily good.
He was on that beat me.
Yeah, Johnny. But at the same time, if you've got that mentality that you're not good enough, then you're right. You're not, because you've got to have that mentality that you are the best. You look at Kurt. Can anyone ever say that Kurt lacks confidence?
No. No.
The guy walks into the room and says, "I fucking own this now." The guy has bags of confidence. He's probably got more confidence than he is. He's better at being confident than he is as a FIFA player, if that makes sense. And that's part of being a top level pro player, is having that calmness, but also that confidence that you are good enough to compete. So again, we've had a player in the esports team. He genuinely didn't believe in himself. And that became quite apparent, which is why he was one of the 3 or 4 players that we've let go so far this season, which is a shame. He's talented, but you need that confidence to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So back to Alex. Back to Alex's point about other tournaments that you can enter.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The tournaments that people should be playing in. That all right. This is what I'm going to be paying attention
to prove yourself.
Potentially sign. Like what are those tournaments?
One of the ones we've taken part in recently quite a lot with our own team is the EEGs. They're relatively they're quite a new company. But we've been looking at some of the winners of that and going, all right, yeah, they're decent. In fact, I think was it Cameron? I think came through that. So Cameron won one of the events, or it might be Concave, one of the two. They came through the event, they won it, and we went, all right, yeah, this kid looks great, and we had a closer look based on that. So it's events that, let's be honest, that involve some of the top players. So this, what's the one with the big prize pool at the moment? The bronze, silver, and gold.
Oh, the challenger mode. Challenger mode are running some events, bronze, silver, and gold cups.
And so some of those are invite only, aren't they?
They're for verified players and up. And I think if you've qualified, and if you qualified an event where you're top 16 in the world, you get instantly put into playoffs. But everyone else who's verified can play in those. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, let's be honest. If you win something like that, you're gonna have every man and his dog's gonna be looking at you. So that's your way of making it onto the scene and going, right, I'm top of the world. Here's me. I've beaten X, Y, Z. Now the problem is, to win an event like that, let's be honest, it's unlikely. You've got thousands of players, but some of the smaller events where the prize pools can be anywhere from €100, 250 quid, whatever. some of the smaller stuff. Mino did an invitational thing the other day. Things like that. You know, the average FIFA player is probably not going to get invited to, are they?
No.
No.
So you have to start from the bottom, take part in some events, prove yourself at these smaller competitions, cups. I mean, you can just Google the Battlefly, run them, you know, left, right, and centre. Stream them if you can. You don't have to have the full setup. But from our perspective, we want to look at a player, like if they've got a Twitch channel in which, it doesn't even have a camera, microphone, or anything like that. We can just see their gameplay. That helps because we can see exactly how they're playing, and we will watch them. So, you know, if you're a pro player and you've got like 3 views on there, I can guarantee one of them is probably an esports team. Just like trying to check out what's going on. So little things like that, just to get your name noticed a little bit. And the other thing, don't ever be afraid of approaching someone about something. So our DMs are always open. They are always open. We don't respond to everyone, but there is nothing wrong with asking the question.
No.
There's nothing wrong with asking the question.
No, don't ask, don't get.
Exactly. So just you've got to get yourself out there as well. You can't rely on getting noticed just on the back of weekend league in particular, because like I say, weekend league merchants, and I think esports teams are probably, especially the better ones, are the ones that have got real futures. They won't take into account many of your weekend league performances. No. Unless you've beaten like the top 8 players in the world and you've videoed it and recorded it and you've smashed text 4-0 and made it look easy and tapped them as you've done it. You know, we're not going to pay attention to it. So
I think weekend league can only mean so much when sort of it's an environment where anyone can almost beat anyone. So,
exactly. And I mean, if you've got players that who was that? That guy this week who hit 30-0 on 3 different accounts.
Yeah,
and the idiot goes and posts it. That's like, mate, that's complete breach in terms of service. But my point is like from an esports perspective, we would look at that and go, okay, that guy's hit 30-0 on 3 different accounts, which makes him a great player, that individual. But then if someone else posts that they've hit a 30-0, well, who actually played those games? Like, you know, without if there's no name behind it, if he's not known within the community, you've hit 30-0. Well, who actually played those games? Which is why, you know, if you're beating other pro players at events and stuff, then we can say, actually, you know what? You know, he can play other pros, he's good, he's decent, and we can look at it a little bit more seriously.
Just to mention, if anyone else in the chat does have questions, please do ask them. So we want to get everything out as much as possible. Another question that I've got actually. So you mentioned the thing with like with the potential coin transferring that actually wasn't.
Yeah.
What is your sort of protocol if anything like that does happen and it is justified, like it is true? That they've done it.
To be really honest, we'd have to sack them.
Yeah.
So we had a player who came through the community. We did a community event last year to win I say a contract. It wasn't really a contract. It was just to take part in the team more than anything. Through our Facebook group, and he won it. And he's an Elite 3 kid. You know, whatever. Wasn't particularly great, but it's just sort of a way of giving back to the community, if you see what I mean. Anyway, he was accused of cheating in the Premier League, and we investigated. We found out that he was indeed cheating, and myself and John had spoken about it. We'd sort of hinted at what was going to happen. We were just going to have to fire him, but thankfully he left before that ever happened. But yeah, if you get caught cheating, from our perspective, like in terms of how we sell ourselves as, you know, to sponsors and stuff, if we're not seen to take action on it, then it damages the brand.
True.
Yeah.
So you can't. I understand why, in particular, let's be honest, coin buying is tempting because it's a quick fix to a problem where you haven't got enough money to compete with FIFA points, so you compete by buying coins, and I get that. I 100% get that. But if you get caught doing it, not only will you have your name trashed, it'll be, you know, dragged through the mud. You'll forever be known as the guy that bought FIFA coins and breached terms of service. You know, other esports teams probably won't look at you. Yeah, it's the same as any player that gets caught cheating. I'll give you an example. Pro Hunter. What's Pro Hunter? He's number 13 in the world on Xbox. Unsigned.
Yeah.
We all know what he did.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, you know, we looked at Pro Hunter, but as soon as we looked into the history of it and, you know, looked at the odds of, well, did he cheat, did he not cheat, and the name that he brought behind it, you just think, well, actually, that's a straight non-starter for us. So you only damage your future. So it might be a quick fix for now, but long term, it's got the potential to do so much more damage. You know, you imagine you bought in coins, you've made an event, and then EA turned around to you the week before you're due to fly out. You booked it off from work, whatever. You know, you've got all your family excited about it, and then you turn around, you get banned from the event for cheating because you bought a few coins, and then you have to turn around. You got to tell all your family, your friends, actually, I'm not going to Singapore this year because I got caught buying some coins. And I might say I didn't, but you know, my esports team has sacked me as well because they think I did it as well. You know, it's not a good look. So don't do it. That's my top tip.
Just wanted to read out one of the questions. It says, how important is a player's social media when you're looking for a player? And another question is, do you have an academy or are you looking to start one?
Yeah, so social media didn't used to be important for us at all. It is now up there, probably in the top 5 things that we look at. In particular, it gives us a flavour of what a character is really like as well, because you can read into it. You can read into a lot of, you know, if a person is consistently toxic on every single post that they put out there on Twitter, then you know that's quite a toxic person. Do you really want to work with someone that's toxic, that's going to bring you down every day? Probably not. If it's really positive, you're going to go, oh yeah, this guy's like. What would be brilliant for me is if I saw someone go, oh, okay, I've lost 3-2. Real shame. Congratulations to my opponent. He played a fantastic game. I know exactly where I went wrong and gave a list of reasons, what, you know, legitimate mistakes that he made in the game. I'm going to work on those. I'm going to come back even stronger. To me, I'd be like, wow, yeah, that guy knows exactly what, you know, he's got the drive to take it further. If I get some guy saying, well, I got cheated out, the servers were shit, it was laggy, yeah, all this kind of crap, the bullshit excuses, that's what I'm going to call them. Let's be honest, the game lags for everyone. When I see that, it's a complete turn off.
Do you think that you'd ever use, I don't want to say use, but sort of, if a player has, I don't know, a couple of thousand followers, good player, but obviously not that top level, would you ever look at that player and think, okay, we can well, almost use this player to sort of build the brand even more? Is that anything that you think about, or is it solely competitiveness of the player?
Last year we'd have thought about the brand. This year is purely on the player. Okay. Purely on the player. You know, in terms of social media reach, there's not many. I think there's 3 or 4 top level FIFA players that have probably got a bigger brand following than what we do now with SBC tips. So that factors is not really existent to us. You know, we can add 1,000 followers onto someone's account in the space of 24 hours, 48 hours if we need to a giveaway, whatever. You know, we can get them a social media following. That bit's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not easy, because you've got to keep them and keep them engaged. But you know, that's not as much of a factor as it ever used to be.
Okay.
There was another question you asked a second ago. I've completely forgot what it is, but I never answered.
Academy. Do you have an academy?
Oh, the academy.
And if not, will you consider having an academy?
I'll tell you a secret now. So I mentioned earlier we had three levels of player. We had the competitive level, which is obviously Christian and you know, one other player we're looking to sign. We've got the qualification levels, who are, you know, they're still paid, not as much, but we'll still back them or whatever. And that's Hammond, you know, at Chelsea. That's Tuds. That's that sort of level of player. And then the players below that are you know, the up and coming kids, as so to put it. We initially.
I like how you call them the up and coming kids.
Yeah, it's like, you know, what's that famous line? You'll never win anything with kids. Well, I'm hoping to prove that wrong. But let's be real. When we first came up with it, the 3 levels, that 3rd layer was actually called an academy. But would you believe that no one wants to be called an academy prospect? You don't. You want to be called a professional.
Falcon doesn't mind it. For demise. Falcon loves his academy stage.
Does he?
Loves it. Thrives on it.
That's a dig, wasn't it? That was a second one.
Oh no, Falcon.
So, yeah, I would look at that. Yeah, I would look at that 3rd tier and go, that's academy almost in some ways, and there's no disrespect to the players there, but they're not paid. They're there to learn. They're there to develop. So yeah, that's an academy. Let's be blunt about it. It's just the name that we've put on it. So yeah, technically we do have one. It's just, you know, we're not going to call it that because you guys don't want to be called academy players unless your name's, is it Falcon?
Yeah, correct.
Falcon. Stuck in the academy, mate.
Falcon Academy, you're muddy.
Been rinsed on.
We love Falcon, man. He's there every week.
Is he?
He's a brilliant. He's a top mod.
Oh, fair play.
Doesn't miss an episode.
To be fair, I think as well, let's not, like, that word academy is also, like, as much as we meme about it, if you are looking for a team, they do have like an academy process. I do think if you if you feel like you are, for those people that are wanting to get into esports and are kind of, maybe don't feel like they're quite at that level yet, or they still feel like they need like an extra push, then sometimes joining like an academy is a good thing.
Yeah, using it
as well,
a stepping stone,
as
almost.
like a stepping stone. Yeah, because no, you go with what you were gonna.
Yeah, with academies, I mean, the brilliant part about like what we're doing for some of our up and coming guys, let's say they make an event, we take everything away from them in terms of what they have to do. All they have to do is show up at whatever airport, show up at whatever taxi, bus, whatever. We will take, obviously EA arrange certain bits anyway for events, but all of the administrative side, all of that stuff, where they need to be, we tell them all the information, what events are coming up. They don't need to worry about it. And that's the brilliant thing about an academy. So you can work with coaches, you can develop your game. So the fact that they don't pay you to start with, like, don't be afraid of that. Because, you're learning on the job. It's like having a college course, but you're not paying for it and they're not paying you. You're hoping to get something at the end of it.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. So if they can take away a lot of the strain for you and you're up and coming, you've not already hit your peak, whatever, then 100% of academies, I'll call it an academy, an esports team that even just offers you support is the way forward.
Yeah.
Keep the questions rolling in the chat, by the way. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I was supposed to ask. So could we all just maybe agree that academy is the very basic entry level to getting into FIFA esports? Just
100%.
Clear that, yeah. So
100%.
Those listening in that do play FIFA are not at the top level, are just starting. This is how you do start. So, what type of academies do they need to look out for then? How do they find these academies? Or
you need to. We're looking at esports, so you need to be quite careful because some of these contracts actually they can be quite nasty.
Can we just get to that side as well? Like, can we speak about that just so that we can make it more clear?
Yeah, of course we can. I'll give you an example. I saw a contract 12 months ago through an agent that was representing Galatasaray, the big Turkish football club, and it was in broken English. They offered a few FIFA points to get started. They offered a shirt, a Galatasaray shirt, and that was your lot. And the only other clause in the contract was that if they made an event or any winnings for any tournament, not just foot champs, any tournament, they took 50% from.
Wow. Oh.
And you just think, well, hang on. So there's no actual support. You don't get so one of the questions that was asked back was, do I get exposure on the Galatasaray Twitter site and bit of the website? None of that. It was none of that at all. It was purely on the back of, you get a contract, and if you win something, then you put it back in. And actually, from a young person, let's be blunt, when you're between 16 and 19, 21, whatever, I mean, some people, they get to 30, you could technically be classed as vulnerable. You don't quite understand perhaps the bigger world all of the time. You might think you do, but when it comes to the more complicated legal matters, like, a lot of people won't have come across a formal contract at that point. Some of them, you'll get to 19, they haven't even had a mobile phone contract, let alone an esports contract. So it is, even if it's one of your mates, even if it's one of your parents, just get someone else to look through anything before you agree to anything. All right? Because I know from our perspective, our moral perspective, we are brilliant at what we do. I've seen so many contracts before we put our own together. Our contract is very fair. It's all above board. There's nothing dodgy about it. But I've seen some absolutely shocking ones out there. So you need to make sure that the contract you enter into is right for you. Not just about the money, but about the rights and bits and pieces. So, like, for example, if your player image rights are compromised in any way, that means that, you can't, you couldn't enter into your own individual sponsorship contract, as an example. You're limiting yourself there, but they can sell your image rights. So, if they want you, trying to think of an example off the top of my head, they wanted to put you in like a porn advertisement. There's nothing you could do about it because you signed a contract. I'm not saying it's likely, but you see what I mean. Like, they could,
anything can happen.
They could do whatever they wanted with it once they've got your image rights. So things like that you need to be careful with. Going back to academies and stuff in terms of what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking for, if I was a FIFA player, young, up and coming, thinking of taking it to the next stage of esports, I would be first of all looking for a team that focuses purely on FIFA. Yeah. Because, like I mentioned earlier, if they're focusing on 5 or 6 different esports, guess what? You're going to be like bottom of that barrel, like bottom of that bottom, at the very bottom of the names of priorities and lists or whatever of people to speak to and people to help. in the long scheme of things. Because let's be honest, in terms of FIFA compared to other esports are much more profitable. So as a result, guess where their efforts are going to be. So you want to find an academy that focuses on FIFA. Ideally, it would have some sort of development pathway. So with our own pro players, as an example, we've got step up from the young up and coming. We won't call them academy players, but they're academy players. Moving on up, we want to see them develop from there up to qualification level players, and then up to event level players. You want to see a path for development as well.
Yeah, I think a lot, and I know I've been guilty of this before. Sort of, you mentioned about a jack of all trades type of org. They're in everything. I've been certainly guilty of looking more at the financial side rather than have any focus really on the support side or the development side. That there is, I think, support as a FIFA player especially is necessary, and a lot of orgs will go, okay, here you go, here's some FIFA points, and then leave you to it. So
you want that hands-on support, don't you? Because how many teams out there they just sit there? You've got to find out your own events. You've got to find out when your own qualification things are. Let's be honest, the EA's communication isn't great at the best of times. No. You don't have. So often you've got a couple of players in a team, and they might have each other to talk to, but you've got no leadership or direction. You're just expected to perform. There's no set out strategy. What you want to see from any esports organisation is a plan of action. As this is what we're going to do. Whether it's getting your name out there more, whether it's taking part in events, whether it's taking part in pro clubs, whether it's taking part in other people's streams, whether it's having people open you rewards, whatever. You want some sort of help there to take you from being, let's be honest, a nobody to a somebody. And then once you hit to a somebody, once you become a name within the esports world, you can go in whatever directions you want. You can carry on trying to hit the top level as Tex has done. You could go into content creation like Kurt did.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. What's his name? Madosui. He's what? I think is he own his own esports team now?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
He owns Tundra, part of Tundra Esports.
Exactly. So he's got
there.
Exactly. He's gone into esports manager. So once you become a somebody, the doors all open. It's just you need to get from that stage of being a nobody to a somebody before you can go anywhere.
That's actually sponsored by Jay-Z, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, is it? Is it?
Yeah, apparently.
Look at that. You know what I've been listening to.
I think, so Wardy's asked on your thoughts on the David Nobrega situation. I personally wouldn't say that this is the best platform for it. Obviously, it's up to you and up to David whether it's spoken about or not.
I don't mind talking about that. David is brilliant. I would class David. He's a good guy. I like David. I've got a lot of time for him. But he's brilliant at pretty much any game he turns his mind to. He's fantastic. I mean, before, when we were looking at signing him last year, me, him, and another guy called Adam, we were playing Apex Legends till like 4 a.m. Just goofing about and killing loads of people. he was like, his back must have been sore because he was trying so bad.
You've got to teach me how to play that game, man. I'm not good at it.
It's good fun. I love it.
It's all right.
I'm not good at Apex, man.
David will be good at whatever game he turns to. Has David got aspects he can improve on? Yeah, of course he does. But from David's perspective, like if I was him, would I be looking? Because let's be honest, he's a decent streamer. I've watched his stream. I've gifted him subs, whatever. He interacts. He's got good engagement. He's talking to people. He's obviously good at FIFA as well. He's got a decent little following on there. I say little, it's not actually that little. He's got a decent following on Twitter. If I was David, I'm being very open and honest here. If I was David, I would be looking at, okay, well, what do I actually want to do in the future? Do I want to try and make an event where the top 16 players might make a little bit of money out of it, and then try and get into a big esports team where I'm going to get a decent salary and bits and pieces? Or do I go where the money is right now and go straight into content creation? Because I've given it a go in esports. I haven't hit the level that I wanted to this year, which I think is a fair comment, and actually focus on content creation instead. But that is entirely down to David. I wish him the best of luck with whatever he does because he's a really, really good guy. It's a shame it didn't work out between us. That's the honest truth. We wanted it to be as much of a success as he did. But from our perspective, like letting him go last week, that to us it was the kind thing to do rather than drag it out to the end of the season gives him the time to potentially find another team if he wants to go down that road.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's I think that's fair enough. Jay asks, so obviously bigger orgs like FaZe, Optic, stuff like that.
Yep.
He says they were almost like a family, not just there for each other within games, like within the game. That like so FIFA, for example. Has SAF adopted that aspect? Like obviously, like the sort of family aspect, rather than just in FIFA.
Yeah, more so now than it has done before. So beforehand we had like a Discord, Twitter chat, Discord chat, and it was a bit dead in there, and people didn't interact. But now with the signing of the new players, so Cameron, Conke coming in, Larry stepping up a little bit, Sam as well, people interacting more, and it's getting to that stage where it's more of a family. Now, in all honesty, what I'd really love to do is have like a massive house somewhere in the middle of nowhere with super fiber connection, 1 gigabyte download, whatever, and we all fucking live in the same house, whatever. Just like is it FaZe that does that, whatever. That would be ideal. It's just not the money for that at the moment, but yes, I would like it to be like a family. Their teammates, they should be closer. You shouldn't get to a position where you ever really fall out publicly with a teammate. That's one of the worst things you possibly do, I guess, or call them out on anything. You want to get to a stage where you're supporting each other, you're playing each other on a regular basis, because if these guys are all at a similar level, top level, then actually they can learn off each other. What does this guy do really well? Okay, well, he's, stupidly clinical in front of goal. What's he doing in front of goal that's so great? All right, well, how's this guy so good at intercepting passes, reading the game? What tactics are you playing? Trying different things, because that's how you develop. That's how you get better as a player. So yeah, I think it's crucial. We'll do our best with Nero, and obviously John in charge as the manager, to try and drive the players on. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to make the best of it from yourself. Only one person can make yourself a success, and that's you. We'll give you all the support in the world that we can, but the buck stops with you, so to put it.
Okay. Anyone got any other questions? Whether that's Liam or Alex, or in the chat.
I've been scrolling through, so I'm just checking if we've missed any questions.
Oh, there's a few comments then.
I think the chat's been going off since the start, and it hasn't stopped pretty much. So it's like amazing, like
it's great. It's great to know.
Interaction. It's great to know that like people are really interested in this topic. I think Jay also may have asked another question. It's probably like a little more of a personal one, so you don't have to.
Far away.
But he was asking, like, as an owner of SAF, like, have you had to deal with sort of any public adversity as of yet? And if so, like, how have you, like, sort of dealt with that or handled that situation?
Yeah, great example. We had SBC Tips. We bought the Twitter account. There's no secret behind it. We bought that Twitter account. We didn't make it. It's been around in the FIFA community for a long time. It changed hands, so we're actually the third owner of it. It changed hands in September. It was going down a road that probably wasn't great for the account, for the follower base that it had, selling coins, recommending this, doing other bits and pieces like that. Yeah. And we bought that Twitter account, which is something I never thought we would do by, in effect, it's a brand, isn't it? SBC Tips. Mm-hmm. And yeah, let's be honest, it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Let's be real. And for the first 6 weeks, we kept it a complete secret. I think there was about 10 people that knew outside of Serious About FIFA, that knew that we were running it. They were mainly traders and bits and pieces. And then what happened was actually we got called out by, is it Bobblefoot?
Yeah.
His name is?
I know him.
Some American guy. Yeah, whatever. He sells a lot of coins, whatever. And he called us out because what we were doing is we were giving out free bits of trading advice on Twitter and say, you're just impacting the market. What gives you the right to, what makes you such a good trader to be able to give other people advice, blah, blah, blah. You're not even the original owner, etc., etc. And actually what it took from us was that we put out a statement. We said, well, look, this is what we've got planned. As an organization, we do a lot of charity work. We've raised thousands of pounds for charity. We give a lot back to the community. We do loads of free giveaways. They're always guaranteed. We actually pay out, unlike a lot of these shitty free giveaways that never actually pay anything. And it took us to put out a large statement where actually we said, well, look, we manage the world's biggest paid investment Discord. I think you might not have heard of us, but actually we're very good at what we do. We're the biggest for a reason. Mm-hmm. Because we make our members make millions of coins. They tell other people. That's kind of how it's worked to this point. And we've advertised it on Facebook, of course. So Twitter was a new battleground for that. So yeah, we've dealt with adversity before. I don't think you could always fight fire with fire. I think there's nothing worse than seeing like two people slag it out online.
Yeah.
It just drags both people's names through the mud. So, but yeah, with any esports team event, whatever, you're bound to have some bumps in the road, should we put it? You know, we've had, in fact, Daniel Smith, we fell out with him big time. So DS Gaming. We've had a big public. I say public, it wasn't big public falling out.
You're not holding back on the names tonight, are you, man? Go ahead.
No, we're not.
I'm loving it. It's probably in my popcorn. I'm like, I love this controversy, man. I love it. So go ahead.
Yeah, Daniel was in on Facebook, and like he would come out with some outrageous claims and bits and pieces. And, like, to be fair, what was happening in the actual group chats that we had, like looking back, it was on the verge of bullying him. That's how bad it was, and it wasn't. I'm not saying it was me. I'm saying that the mods and the volunteers that helped with Serious About FIFA. He was that. Some of the claims coming out from him were that outlandish. It was becoming daft. It was becoming daft. I'm not going to say, and it was on both sides. He gave a load of shit, and we gave him a load of shit for it. All right, and that became uncomfortable. It didn't end up very pretty. He started to get one of his mates involved, who's a relatively small YouTuber. Actually, small is not the right word. That's condescending, isn't it? Medium-sized YouTuber. He got him involved, and there's a bit of a Twitter spat and whatnot because we got him to sign something to say he wouldn't talk about us again. And it got sorted. It got sorted in the end, but stuff like that is ugly. I don't enjoy it. I think it's kind of shit. But as any esports event, any player, you will have bumps in the road. It's a bit like I'm sure, Ziffy, you will have trolls in your stream from time to time. That's why you've got mods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's the same with esports teams and events. People in this community will stab you in the back to get one up on you. If they can dig up a little bit of dirt on you that makes you look bad and makes them look better, they will do it. And you've got to remember that, unfortunately. That's just the way that the esports, I say esports, that's just the way the FIFA community works at the moment. Anything for clout.
Wow.
Daniel, that's awkward, isn't it? Sorry, Daniel.
Wow. Well, I'm sure everyone's entertained tonight. I'm sure everyone's entertained, and that's exactly what we wanted.
No holds barred, mate. No holds barred.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I personally, I don't have any more questions. If anybody else does, feel free to get them out. Yeah. At
the same time, guys, for those of you listening in, our Twitter inbox, it's open. So if you've got a question that perhaps you're embarrassed, you don't want to ask on stream, by all means, jump on there, and I'll try not to call you out on another podcast in the future. But no, seriously, just message us with any questions you've got, guys. I'm more than happy to answer them.
So so the last couple of questions that have come in have already been answered. Low Griffey, they're looking to sign one more like event level player on PS4. And then SAF expanding outside of FIFA.
Serious about Fortnite?
Not for the on the cards maybe, but no, they're not looking. Not yet, anyway. Not for the foreseeable. Not yet. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. That's the best way of putting it. Never say never, eh? Never say never.
Never.
So yeah. So anyway, Ziffy, moving on to you, mate. When are we hearing this big news then?
I don't actually know yet. I'm not sure. But
when the announcement is.
Yeah, soon. I'm excited for you, mate. I'm excited for you. Thank you. I'm sure you'll be a success wherever you go.
We can only hope.
You gotta believe in yourself now.
Exactly.
You got it.
Just my final things. What are you looking for in rewards tomorrow?
Oh,
I mean,
coins, money, cash money.
Rewards. I can't really expect much, can I?
Oh god.
You're getting leveled off.
Yeah. To be fair,
you probably might get an icon from that.
Probably got a higher chance of getting one of the big boys. Yeah.
I'll probably get my best rewards yet. I'll make like 2 mil off silver 3 rewards.
100%. No, obviously the obvious ones in the reds. Lewandowski would be nice. Sancho would be nice. But yeah, obviously in the pack it's just coins.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because let's be honest, at the top level, how many of those cards in the red picks actually really interest you guys?
Not many.
Probably Sancho, and that's maybe about
Sancho,
it.
Lewandowski, maybe Royce. Actually, yeah, Alfonso Davies looks really
Oh,
good.
yeah, that
Oh, well, I
Davies
got
got
him for my guarantee, thankfully.
I would
Did
not
you?
mind
Fucking
him in a
sure.
red
Yeah.
or
But yeah,
anything.
Luke
yeah.
says none. Luke doesn't want any of them, and that's
Does he not?
fair enough. SBC fodder.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, something like that.
There was one question that I just want to read out. It says, obviously with contracts, it's more of a cheeky question. Do lawyers get involved and stuff? And if so, do they cost a arm and a leg?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Have you ever needed, to get lawyers involved or anything?
No, in fairness, like the actual contract side of it is fairly routine. So we've got a standardised template. So people think, oh, you need a lawyer and a top-level solicitor, and they imagine some sort of courtroom with things getting approved and all this kind of shit. It's none of that. So you can find someone called the level that you need is something called like a paralegal guy, which is basically the level below a solicitor. So you're not paying 150 quid an hour. You put together your contracts. You don't have to make it too complicated. You can get templates from online. Obviously, tweak it to how you want. Get it approved by a paralegal guy, and it might cost you 50 quid, 100 quid. I've got a mate that does it for free. That's currently studying it through university, so he's fine to approve things. As long as you don't overcomplicate it, there's unlikely to be problems anyway. There's unlikely to be problems, but yeah, it doesn't cost a lot to set up a contract. And actually, the contract process itself tends to just involve me and the player, and that's it. So, for Christian, once obviously lockdowns, subsided or whatnot, and we can get out and about, I'll probably fly out to Malta. We'll do like a big unveiling, whatever, shirt signing, something like that. Bit of social media publicity, that sort of thing. But the lower levels, the academy players, it's quite literally we send them an Adobe document, they sign it online, it comes back, hey, you're a player, congratulations. Open the champagne. Oh wait, you're 16, you can't drink. Sorry, that's me.
I got nothing else to say, Ziffy.
I'm done. I think we've got
Should wrap that up.
so much out.
Jay said that from a viewer's perspective, this is probably the best episode yet. It's been super open and honest. I think I agree as well.
Yeah,
been
very
open and honest about
100%.
everything, Callum. And
I appreciate that, guys. Well, thanks for having us on. I've enjoyed myself. I'll say, guys, if you've got any questions, hit us up on in DMs, and we'll try and answer the best we can. We're quite open and honest about things. Serious about FIFA 2, but there we go.
Yeah, so you've been our best guest.
Oh, lovely. Do I get like I don't know, some sort of that.
You might get a golden medal made at some point.
I made an event. I'm the best on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know what guest we've got to bring in next, man. You've been our best one. You've boosted us to average 50 viewers.
Who did you have? You had, was it Brandon
and Richard on
Yeah, that was on Monday.
That was good.
I'll take that. Lovely. We're doing a giveaway with them guys from tomorrow, I think. So I'll remind you.
You can do it. Yeah, you can do that, and just you can have. I was the best.
Rub it in their face.
Yeah, I was the best. I was the best guest on. Like, we'll co-sign it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
All right.
Lovely. I've enjoyed myself, guys.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, it's been good.
Appreciate it.
Lovely. Cheers for having us, guys. Catch you later.
I'll see you boys in a bit. Have a good one.
Take care, man.
Right. I might be live later with some rivals, some late night rivals again. But maybe not. If not, I'll be live 9 AM tomorrow sharp for awards. We'll be opening a lot of awards. But no, this episode's been really good, and I appreciate everyone for watching and staying by. We're gonna raid Sour Kiwis now. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, this episode has been nothing short of excellent. So yeah, no, I appreciate everyone stopping by. It's been a great stream. Thank you to all the new followers as well. We've had a load of new follows today. But yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you for watching.